Good evening to all our Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us for our Tuesday night live show, affectionately referred to as After Dark. Well, at least it is in the winter when we named it, but still a little sunshine out there today. So I want to thank everyone for being here, and a couple of things I want to talk about. As you noticed, yesterday we were not in the Crime Talk studio. I was in court in an undisclosed location on the western side of the state. And I flew over there. And when I left the Denver metropolitan area, it was pretty nice. But as I got closer, it got more cloudy as I headed west. And as I'm looking down in the general area, you start flying over the Continental Divide. And I start thinking to myself, what in the heck ever happened to the search for Suzanne Morphew? Every time I fly over there, I just think, they kept saying this ice is going to melt. We're waiting for the snow to melt. I'm telling you, I was flying over the Continental Divide yesterday, in the general area of Salida, actually a little north of Salida there. There's so much green. There's so much lack of snow up there on the mountains, even the ones that have snow on the tops most of the year. So I'm just curious, and the only reason I bring that up is, the prosecution said we're not done with this case because we're going to find her body. We think we know where it is. We think we're going to go find her when the snow melts. Where is it? Where? Okay. I think the whole Morphew matter is done. He took his deferred judgment to his forgery for signing his wife's ballot or turning it in, saying that it was true and correct. It's done, in my humble opinion. The district attorney was extremely embarrassed by that outcome. They should be embarrassed by how they handled that case from the beginning to the filing of charges with their little press conference to the end, where they were embarrassed in court by the court saying that basically your office is incompetent and can't be trusted, and this isn't the first time. So didn't mean to digress. Don't want to sit here and say I'm a champion from Barry Morphew, because I'm not. He just looks like that middle-aged guy that still wears his bedazzled jeans and thinks, if he goes to the gym a couple of times a week, he's still 25 or whatever. But we'll just leave it at that. All right. I guess the point I wanted to make is that the snow has melted. The snow is gone. What is the status? I wonder if the district attorney's office or the sheriff's office up there will give us a status report on that so that we can know they're still adamantly, diligently working on that case. Another thing that I'd like to talk about was that when I was at a court appearance for a matter for a client in an undisclosed location, so that we don't give away too much detail, but I just want to give you an example of kind of what my day some days looks like. All right. So it's no big deal. I'm happy as a clam. I get to get up. I leave the house, come to the office here real quick, grab a couple of things. Then I head out to the airport, pull the plane out of the hangar, fly over to where I'm going to fly over to. It's about a 50-minute flight. Like I said, as I'm sitting there flying over, I think, the snow's all gone. I wonder what happened to Suzanne Morphew. Then we start hitting some weather, and, no big deal. We fly. We're instrument rated. We fly. We land at the airport. Everything's happy. Now I'm there for a client, and, the client has, let's say, several cases. I can't really say how many cases, but let's just say he's got a lot of cases, and yours truly got those wrapped up for him. That's a lot of cases. And everybody agreed, when it came to sentencing, because there was a real serious case in there, that this wasn't a probation case. It was either going to be community corrections or it was going to be prison. And for those of you who don't know what community corrections is, that is what is affectionately known to the world as a halfway house. What does that really mean? Right? When someone gets sentenced in a felony criminal case, the judge has basically three options. The judge can say, one, I'm going to put you on probation and you're going to do the things we ask you to do. And sometimes the court can impose some county jail time as a condition of that probation. Then the next option is the court can say, I'm going to put you in community corrections. Now, this is usually a stop for somebody that maybe doesn't qualify for probation, but, not really worthy of going to prison just yet. We're going to give them that chance, so to speak. Usually they have the ability to work. They just made some really poor decisions. The catch with all things in life that sound too good to be true is that there's a catch. So like when you go to community corrections, you're technically in prison, okay? And when you're in that halfway house, you got to pay for your room, your board, do all the counseling, do all the classes. But don't worry. Usually there's plenty of drug dealing to go around in the halfway house because everybody's doing it. Everyone's meeting their new hookup, so to speak. And so, let's say you get a 5-6 year sentence. You're usually out of what they call residential halfway house in a year and a half. And then you get to go home. It's like probation, but you're technically in prison, but we're going to give you that shot. And of course, if you screw it up, like you pick up a new case or you stop doing what they ask you to do by going to classes, things of that nature, they can revoke you. If you have hot UAs, they can revoke you. And then you can go back, then you go straight to prison to serve out the remainder of your sentence. So let's say you got a 6-year community correction sentence, you blow it after a year or two, then you go serve the remainder of your sentence in community corrections. And at least the way it works in our state here in Colorado is that if you go to prison, well, then you got to do parole on the back end. If you go straight to community corrections and you successfully complete it, then you don't have to do parole. It's kind of a bonus feature there, so to speak. So that's the options. All right. Well, let's just say the client with several cases, I'm not going to say, but several cases, of which many were dismissed because they couldn't prove them. I go in and have to advise them like, dude, you didn't get accepted to community corrections. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, but, we knew that was a risk, but I think it was a sweetheart deal. We had to take it anyway. Right. And let's just say the client wasn't happy. And I'm paraphrasing here, but his words were something to the effect of, well, what did you do for me? You suck. You can't even get me into community corrections. And so needless to say, I was like, all right, well, any other corrections or additions to the pre-sentence investigation report that you think I should highlight to the judge? I noted my comments and thoughts that I thought were going to be necessary, and then, told him what I was going to do. And the guy, just left. Told the sheriff, take him out of there. Rawr, rawr. I went, okay, fine, whatever. So we go to court later in the day. We wait. Finally call up the case. And the judge says, yeah, I didn't take this guilty plea. And frankly, I'm not sure I'm going to accept this guilty plea. And the client looks over like, well, what does that mean? And I'm like, oh, that deal that you said that sucked, that I was a worthless piece of blank? She's saying it's too good of a deal that I was able to get you. And she thinks it's too lenient and she may reject it, which means we start all over again. And all of a sudden he got like, oh, yeah. So, of course, the district attorney does their little tap dance. Da-dun, da-dun, bringing out big hands finish. Come on. Judge, is why it's appropriate. Blah, 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 blah. And I, of course, go, oh, judge, he's a great guy. Bad part of his life. Look at, the typical stuff. Acceptance of responsibility, first step towards rehabilitation, all that kind of thing, right? And the judge then goes through to highlight how bad the cases were. I mean, sure, maybe there was a little bit of a home invasion allegedly. Maybe some small children were taped up and held at gunpoint, but these things happen, Your Honor. It could happen anywhere. Look at that video we put up today on our show. The guy comes running out of his own house. The guy's chasing him with a gun. It can happen anywhere. That's what I'm telling you. So, not that I'm, not, it's bad. Don't rob people of their things. It's bad. It's bad, bad, bad. So anyway, the judge goes through, highlights all the bad stuff, calls my client a menace to society. It's too sweetheart of an offer, but she's going to begrudgingly go along with the stipulated sentence, even though she thinks it's terrible. And of course, I'm like, oh, we were all disappointed that he didn't get community corrections, Your Honor. He's a good guy. And the judge is like, I wouldn't have given him community corrections if he was accepted. So I think it all kind of came back to reality to the client that, yeah, maybe Scott, the guy that you're like, oh, you come in here with your fancy pen and your fancy papers and you tell him it's a good deal. You didn't do anything. You sold me out. And then, it's kind of reinforced that, hey, maybe Scott was looking out for one's best interest, not his own. Scott's best interest would have been to take all these cases to trial and charge you hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if I am telling you to take the deal, it's because I'm looking out for your best interest, right? But people don't remember that. They don't remember that. And so when they say, oh, you suck, you didn't do anything for me. And then finally the judge says, okay, fine, I'll take the deal. And you see the client kind of wiped a little sweat from his brow that was beating upon his forehead. That's right. You look over and say, you're welcome. I didn't, but that's what I was thinking. And he ultimately did shake my hand at the end of the day. And not to get too much into that, but that's just the life of somebody that practices law. I don't want to think it's normal for criminal defense attorneys, but it sure seems like that's what happens. In my world, so to speak, you have individuals that have usually created bad scenarios for themselves. I mean, I wasn't there. I did not create those bad scenarios. I am a magician. I am not a magician. I am just an attorney working with the facts that I was given or new facts that we can go find. Bottom line. And I think it goes to a bigger problem with society. And like I said, I don't want to sound like that old curmudgeoning old man, but I'm telling you, it was a heck of a lot easier being a lawyer when I was a young lawyer. And maybe you just were so oblivious to it, like you didn't know what was going on. Oh, the client doesn't like it. I need to work harder. And you're just like, what? And now you're just like, dude, I've seen this case 1,000 times, and 998 times it's going to turn out a particular way. That's what you're paying for my advice for. Okay. Yes, there's those two outliers, those two anomalies of that 1,000 cases, but 998 times it's going to come out this particular way. Okay. And if you knew that guy who had a cousin, who had a brother, who knew a guy who had a case just like this, and he was in those two cases, by God, go hire him. Oh, and then you're like, oh, but it turned out, yeah, I was the guy that had that two case. Yeah. So it's just very frustrating. Clients used to listen to him, and I have a friend, a mentor who's practiced since the early 70s. And he literally says back in the days, it was like printing money. It was so easy. Clients paid, clients listened. They did what you did. These days, and I love my clients. I love all of them. Okay. I'm just saying, everybody Google something and they all think that they are an expert. And so it's just, kind of interesting. And sometimes I don't want to sound like I told you so. But when something happens, like, okay, this was, I'm not trying to say I told you so, but it just kind of be like, I kind of told you this is probably the way it was going to turn out, right? Not to say, oh, look how smart is me, but why didn't you listen? Right. And I don't get it right all the time. right? There's always that 2%. But for the most part, we get pretty darn close. And so it's just kind of nice when, it's like your kids, I guess. Your kids don't believe a word you say until they hear it from somebody else. And then all of a sudden, that other person is the smartest person in the world. And would never imagine that they heard it from your attorney, so to speak. So, all right, we digress just a little too much, but I had to get that out there just simply for the fact that, and I mean this, I guess there's always a couple of scumbag attorneys out there, but for the most part, the attorney they're looking out for the client's best interest. That's their job. That's their obligation, their ethical obligation to do that. But when some people don't do that, oh, I'm sorry. There goes Frank. I'm sorry, I forgot. I was like, he forgot. I'm like, he's just walking. Oh, I'm sorry. That's all right. It's all good. So anyway, there you go. Let's talk about some other cases. All right. Let's not talk about Scott's thing. But I would note, as I flew home after I waited out a storm just a little bit, and when I was flying back, I'm telling you, this mountain monster wall of a cloud, a cumulus nimbus, big thunderstorm cloud. I was, I think, at 23,000 feet, and I was just kind of flying next to it. And it must have just looked like a little ant next to this thing. It was massive. And on the radar, it was all nothing but red. And, it would have been instant death if somebody had flown into that. Not that you would, but I'm just saying. But once again, as I'm flying back, I'm like, I wonder what the status of Suzanne Morphew is. I guess every time I look at that, I'm going to literally be asking myself, what's the status? Since all the snow's gone, where's Suzanne Morphew? Anyway. All right. Let's talk about some other things right now. All right. Let me see if I can turn my little computer on here. All right. It looks like we have lots of people joining us tonight. I want to thank you all for being here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Scott Reich, and yes, I am a practicing criminal defense attorney. We have started this channel several years ago when the whole Watts case started to hopefully give you an explanation as to really what's taking place and explain the legal process to the world. Because let's face it, usually on the evening news, they don't have enough time to give the appropriate time to those legal issues. They don't do it. They have 30 seconds because they got to hurry up and do the feel-good three-legged dog story followed by sports so that they can, have a little bit of weather in there. So this is what we need to do. Let's see here. I saw a comment here. So I want to see what. Super Dave, Scott. I love this. Scott, I'm not an attorney, rather small operator plumbing company. Great business to be in, I must say. My, ex-brother-in-law has a plumbing business, and he did. It's great business. Great business. People will always have plumbing problems as long as people have to, have plumbing. But yes, it holds true. It's not the way it used to be. And it's interesting because everybody's an expert, and then it's like, well, if you're such a damn expert, go do it yourself. You don't need me. What do you need me for? You're not going to listen to me anyway. You're going to pay me large sums of money, an exorbitant hourly rate, as some people would say, and you're going to ignore my advice anyway. Why don't you just save your money? But the other thing when it comes down to, and I don't know, and maybe, like I said, I hate to think that this is happening to me because I am not old, okay? I am not old. I am the most young at heart person I know, my age. I'm not old. I'm not going to become that curmudgeon-y old man, okay? But there is something out there these days where it is nobody's responsibility. Nobody ever did anything. Like, you could be on tape. Yeah, but still not my fault. I mean, sure, I took the thing I wasn't supposed to take, but it's not really my fault. I mean, they left it out. How how am I supposed to, resist that temptation? And I don't know what it is. I mean, I have my own personal theory, probably upset people, but I seriously think that it is a generational thing. Um, we put that video up today of the guy, 16-year-old kid assaulting a peace officer because he jumped the turnstile in the subway. And the cop's like, dude, what are you doing? Right. And the kid gets mouthy with the cop. Next thing you know, they're in fisticuffs going back and forth. Another teenager was there as well, going at it with fighting the cops. Like, are you kidding me? And I don't know what it is. All I know is when I was growing up, we lived in the suburbs of the Denver area here. And my parents had given permission to all the parents or anyone on the block, basically, that if they saw me or my brothers doing something stupid, that they had open permission to basically call us out on it, smack us upside the head, and go home and tell your parents. That was it. They were going to find out about it. And not that I would, but if I had jumped a turnstile, my parents would be like, are you kidding me? What? As my mother used to say, don't act like trash. You're one generation removed from freaking trailer trash. You might as well try to act like you can be somebody. And if I had jumped a turnstile, my mother would have ripped my head off. Okay. And then I would have been told, wait till your father gets home. And he probably would have ripped the other half of the head off. Okay. Let alone like that 16-year-old in the video that we talked about today, hit a cop. Are you kidding me? Do we have that queued up, Frank? Is that something we can queue up really quick? I mean, on what universe would any 16-year-old who, unless they have absolutely no respect for anyone in the position of authority, the law in general, their community, like a 16-year-old kid, if he's got an attitude like that when he is 16, that has been learned behavior. I don't know if it's been learned from his parents, and who knows? I don't know his parents. Maybe they're great parents that would smack him upside the head if they knew what was going on. Or they're going to be the parents that are going to say, how dare you touch my son? He only did this. Well, I don't care if he only did this. I mean, I remember, excuse me, I remember back in the day, the scenarios we've all been there where your parents, they caught you taking something from the store, a little piece of candy or a package of gum, and they marched you back inside and said, he took this. And what are you going to do about it? And like, well, we're going to, this is really silly. Don't do it. But you didn't know it was going to happen, right? Because your parents took care of it right there and right then. Now, everybody wants to be the best friends with their kids and not their parents. And part of being a parent is actually having to use the words, repeat after me, no. That's right. No, you can't do that. No, that's not yours. No, you can't touch it. No. But now everybody condones everything that the children do. And when the teacher calls these days and says, little Johnny or little Jane is being disruptive in class, the parents don't look at little Johnny and say, you better start behaving or there's going to be some serious consequences. No, the parents immediately turn on the teacher and say, well, little Johnny isn't doing anything wrong. Like, are you kidding me? Like, just take a little bit of responsibility for people. And I'm telling you, this video, I mean, I watched this, I don't know, 3-4 times today. I was just appalled. And then the cop confronts him about jumping the turnstile. And, I'm sure the conversation was like, dude, you got to pay. Like, go back, go through the turnstile and pay. And a 16-year-old, I'm telling you, to get mouthy with a cop like that. And as you'll notice, this cop is of the same ethnicity, same race as the young lad. So I don't think it's a racial thing. I think it is a he has no respect for authority thing. And I don't know. Let me know when you got that queued up, Frank, because it was just unbelievable. I just cannot believe it. I just do not know why parents tolerate that crap. And maybe it's because people are so busy. I don't know. I just don't get it. I just do not get it. Why they don't do that. I mean, it starts. I mean, it starts in the house. Now, some kids, they're gonna go do things, but they, other people. I mean, it's just, I don't know. Yeah, there it is. Robo attorney coming to your office soon. Some of the comments. Take a couple comments. We're waiting for that video to come up. You are not old because that would make me old. Right, Julie, right? I mean, seriously, I'm not old. I don't feel old. I think I'm just at the point where I'm just tired of dealing with the BS. I think that's it. I've talked about this before. When you hit 50, you have that epiphany that you realize you probably have less time on Earth than you've actually been here. So you just don't have the time, neither the time nor the tolerance for the BS of the world. I just want to cut straight to the point. Let's do whatever, if we can resolve this case, that's great. We can resolve it. If we can't, then we go to trial. And that's the other thing that just drives me crazy. It's like, here's the thing. I've done my best and I've tried my best, my finest to get the offer that you would like to get, that you said you would take. The district attorney is aware of that, but they're not changing their mind. They are standing by their position. So you can't have a position, Mr. Client, of, well, I don't want to go to trial, but I don't want to plead guilty either. Well, they're not going to dismiss. They have all of their witnesses. So I'm not exactly sure. And given your confession on video twice, I don't think we have a good case to take to trial. Well, I don't want to go to trial. I don't want to plead guilty. Well, that's not the way the system works. If you don't want the plea bargain, you can make the prosecution prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt to each and every element of the offense unanimously to a jury of 12 people. At that trial, you would have a right to assist in the selection of a jury. Through counsel, you'd be able to cross-examine all testimony, all witnesses called to testify against you. At a trial, you'd have a right to present a defense. You'd have a right to subpoena witnesses if they would not come voluntarily. And at trial, you have a right to testify. And if you chose not to testify, the judge would give that instruction that says the jury could not use your silence against you in any way whatsoever. No one could force you to testify. No one can force you on the stand. It's truly your decision. And if you went to trial and you lost, you have a right to an appeal. But when you plead guilty, you give up all those rights except for your right to have an attorney through all critical stages of the proceedings. So what would you like to do, right? What would you like to do? And clients don't want to make that decision. They want me to make that decision. I can't do that. And if they ask, well, what's your recommendation? I can tell them what my recommendation is. They're like, but I don't like that recommendation. You asked for my recommendation. That's what I deal with. That's why when I look back, I look and I look, because I remember showing up. I was a young guy in court, seemed like yesterday. I can tell you the courtroom I was in, the judge, everybody in the room. I remember my first day in private practice, in civilian private practice. I can tell you the case. I remember it all. Seems like yesterday. And now you walk in and you're like, and I'm not old. But I feel like I walk in and it's like, there's district attorneys here that are younger than my kids. Like, what the heck? Right? I've got a 27 and 25. And you can be 25 right out of law school. Yes. I got the video. All right, let's take a look at this video. All right. Tell me, ladies and gentlemen, who you think, remember, this is the 16-year-old kid. They were going to try to arrest him because he jumped a turnstile. And the police officer said, hey, you can't jump the turnstile. So he was going to be arrested because he refused to do that. Go back and go there through the turnstile and pay. He didn't want to have to pay. So then he gets into a fight with a police officer. Are you kidding me? Okay. And sometimes we take some hard whacks at the police because we don't like bad cops, right? Nobody should like bad cops, just like nobody should like bad lawyers or bad doctors. We want to get rid of the bad ones, keep the good ones. But the cop was like, dude, you just broke the law in front of me. I can't ignore it. Yeah, it's only a turnstile. You didn't pay your $2, whatever it is, to get through, right? And the cop's like, dude, I wasn't there. I'm guessing the cop's probably like, dude, just go through and pay the turnstile. We'll call it a day. And he got mouthy. And next thing you know, it's in a fisticuffs. The cop had to go to the doctor. The kid didn't look great, but he's on a PR bond. And I get he's a juvenile. But listen, there are certain crimes, okay? And this is probably go against some of my fellow brethren in the criminal defense community. But there are certain crimes, and violent crime is one of them. When you start committing violent crime, guess what? You're in the big boy league. You have made it to the majors, man. I don't care what age you are. And I'm not talking about the 12-year-old that mishandles, something, a firearm or something, and it goes off. I'm talking, that 13, 14, 15-year-old kid thinks it's funny that they're going to go do something and somebody gets seriously injured or dies. Welcome to the big time, man. Want to play big boy games and think you're only going to get, little kid consequences? Doesn't work like that. And I think most people in the criminal justice system think that way. But there's been a big shift over the last couple of years. Been a big shift. Nobody can do anything wrong till they're 25. No, don't think so. 18 is the age, man. So anyway, that video with the police officer just blows my mind. All right, let's talk Lori Vallow. Let's talk Chad Daybell. So motions were filed in basically a request for an interlocutory appeal. Now, don't get me started about the state of Idaho and their rules and their privacy stuff. Okay. It is a public court file. That kind of is what distinguishes our court system from, I don't know, some third world despot kind of place where, well, maybe if you know the right people, you can get access to it. We're going to submit privacy because, it could be embarrassing to people. Like in the Lori Vallow case, we're talking 3 dead people. You're being accused of killing 3 people. What could be worse? You've been accused of killing 3 people and you're worried about something, that could affect the privacy interests of somebody. Are you kidding me? The people with the true privacy interest are deceased. And I think they would let that information come out if it meant that justice was going to be done. But yet, and we deal with this all the time, and don't get me wrong, Colorado is not perfect. There was a problem with it. A newspaper in town actually investigated it. To their credit, they did some really good work several years ago, and they actually changed the rules because judges were like, oh, this is a very important person. I'm going to put their case on suppress so nobody can see what goes on here. But if you're everyday Joe Schmo who gets in trouble and the press wants to follow your case, they can go pull the file, pay the $10 or whatever it is to access the electronic court filing system and get all of the pleadings in there. That's the way it should be on any case for anyone. Now, granted, if there's, your taxes or something in there, your social security numbers, yeah, that should be redacted. I get that. But the essence of these motions that have been filed, like, why is it that Mr. Pryor, on behalf of his client, Chad Daybell, thinks that neither of the prosecutors are or should be qualified to handle this case against Chad Daybell. Why? I think it goes directly to the credibility. So we, as the general public, can say, "Hey, that's really a good argument, Mr. Pryor. Wow, you really nailed it. That's really some interesting stuff." Or you can sit there and say, "Wow, that is the dumbest motion I've ever seen. Seems like a total Hail Mary." I mean, let the people know under what legal proposition you are advancing this argument, right? And it goes to the credibility of the court system if you can look at it and say, wow, that judge got it right. Yeah, the judge got it right. Or maybe there really is something there. Now, I don't think of any basis for it other than the fact that they were special prosecutors at one point brought in. Somehow they don't have jurisdiction. I don't know. Like, I mean, it makes you ask one of Ms. Pryor. I mean, like, are you afraid of the guy? Do you think that you can't hang in court with this guy? Is he a better attorney, or is there some legitimate issue? But we'll never know the legitimate issue because Idaho has sealed it. The court has sealed it. And this can all be undone with Judge Boyce, little flick of the pen, flick of the little button on the computer saying, I am basically making this public information to everybody. And, you don't have to have a leak or something to get the information. So the motions that they filed are basically, I mean, I read the court's order. We got this thing and it's really important, but we're not going to let anybody know about the thing that's really important because, we don't want to affect the jury. Okay. And here's the other thing. I've had cases that have had gag orders. I've had cases where I've asked for gag orders. It was a little different time in the world when there was 3 television stations and, 2 newspapers, maybe 1 newspaper in town. They were following your case and it was on everything, right? It's not like today where there's so much information. Most people don't even look at it. Most people don't even read newspapers anymore, right? I mean, heck, I got the Wall Street Journal. I got the New York Times. I don't get it delivered to my house because it'd probably sit out front because I'd forget to go out and pick it up, right? It's on my app. I can read it when I'm, when I wake up in the morning, when I'm going to sleep at night, if I haven't looked at it throughout the day. But it's there. You have to go kind of look for it, though. It's not like, in the old days, you had no choice. So the whole concern about tainting the potential jury pool, it kind of made sense when you were off in little Madison County, there, Fremont County, and everybody knows everybody. But now we're going to the other side of the state, and not everybody knows everybody. And we all know the gist of the general accusation. Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell. These 2 get together. Well, lots of people wind up dead. All right. JJ and Ty Lee, which are Lori Vallow's kids. Tammy Daybell, Chad's wife. Alex Cox winds up dead. What was the other husband for Lori Vallow? Chad something, or why does his name escape me? Dead. Clearly problems, right? Everybody knows the gist. They are some sort of kind of little bit kooky branch or weird interpretation of the Mormon, the Latter-day Saints, and they're doomsdayers. The world's coming to an end. The world's coming to an end. Okay. Charles Vallow. That's it. Thank you, Frank. Hardest working man in show business, even when he's ducking around. Sorry. Anyway, so you got Lori Vallow, right? People dead all around her. Chad Daybell, they start dropping like flies when he shows up as well. Doomsdayers. Okay. Doomsdayers. People have been thinking the world is going to come to an end from the beginning of time that it started. Okay. Short of a nuclear holocaust, I'm not worried about the world coming to an end. And if it is, frankly, we've got bigger problems, right? Other than nuclear war, there's nothing man-made that's going to cause this world to come to an end. I don't think it. I've represented people where people have died because they thought the world was coming to an end. Okay? It is weird. I don't get it. Quit worrying about dying and go do some living. I do not understand. Everybody is obsessed. We're all going to die. We're going to die. We're all going to die. It, think of how ridiculous it is, right? When, there's always the new branch of whatever that breaks off and they're all gathering together for the world to die because, the world's going to end because they've interpreted something that this is the day that it's going to end. We're all going to die. And then the day comes and nothing happens. And they come up with some sort of rationalization as to why it didn't happen. Oh, well, maybe off by a couple more years, another 10 years, right? Listen, I remember as a kid, all they kept telling us, the next ice age is coming. You better get your warm clothes. It's going to be. Now we're all going to die because the world is warming. Okay. I've got a house 4 feet above sea level. Do you know how many people have packed up and left because they're worried about the seas rising up? Not a single person living on the water. Okay. Because they are living. All the people worried that the world is coming to an end are just worried about dying. Okay. And look where it gets you. Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell. The world's coming to an end. They start doing stupid stuff, making poor decisions because they think it doesn't matter because we're all going to die anyway. It's just a bunch of nonsense. Okay. What was it? The last time everything was wiped off here on Earth, I think scientists say, was when a big old asteroid came in and hit everybody, right? I'm going to take my chances on that. Okay. And as I'm, not to digress, but as I'm flying over the mountain the other day, and there's a big thunderstorm. I mean, I swear, I'm flying. I'm like, this thing towers up probably the top 60,000 feet. 60,000 feet. And here I am, this little me flying my little plane, just buzzing right along. And do I think that I have the ability to change that cloud, to move that cloud in any way whatsoever? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It would be naive of me to think that I'm going to change that weather, to move that weather, to change the weather. Okay. And I have come to this realization over the years, and usually because when I got myself just a little scared when I was flying, when you're in one of those situations where you're like, wow, I wish I was on the ground. It's better to be on the ground, wish you were flying, to being in the air and wishing you were on the ground, right? Those kind of situations where you're like, wow, it sure got dark in here really fast, right? Because the clouds just move in on you when you're trying to cut through the thunderstorms. You don't do that. You go around it. Okay. Because you're insignificant in the grand scheme of this world. Absolutely insignificant. And the point I'm trying to make is that these people that think that they can predict the end of the earth, get over it. Get over yourself. It's not happening. Okay. It's insignificant. And when you start flying a small plane next to big thunderstorms, to think that I would be naive enough to think that I could do anything to affect Mother Nature, let alone predict when the earth is going to come to an end. Come on. Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell lost me when they were like, obviously they got their own issues, right? Their kids disappearing and they don't go searching for them, at least Lori Vallow's kids. But you would think the new husband, married just mere days after his wife dies unexpectedly of some unknown, situation. But don't worry about doing an autopsy, anything along those lines, right? And nothing weird about that at all. But then you throw in the world's going to die. The whole world's coming to an end. The apocalypse is coming. Look, you lost me right there. Okay. And like I said, I've represented people that have been where things have gone terribly wrong in their doomsday predictions, right? It's all a bunch of poppycock. It is all a bunch of nonsense. Okay. When our day is here and our day is done, it is going to do it. But Lori Vallow and them, you just lost me when you start talking about the end of the world stuff. And that is what they're doing. But sorry, I digress, but it's just, I don't know. It just bugs me when the Lori Vallow stuff, that we have two for sure, possibly a third, all because of that nonsense, right? And if somebody is purporting to, that's their defense, their theory of defense or something like that, we should have a right to know. And if there's somebody out there with information that says, oh, I heard about that, hey, let me step up and volunteer and say, you know what, that's not true. I was there, right? But we don't know this. I don't know. I just, I said, maybe I'm just, after yesterday, maybe I am just turning into that curmudgeon old man. Our system of courts is supposed to be equal justice. And I'm really starting to think that there's two types of justice systems. One for the rich and powerful, and one for everybody else. And we don't get the what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word I'm looking for? Let's just say we don't get the deference that the rich and powerful does. I think there's, I knew it. I always hoped that wasn't the case, but maybe I'm just kind of getting there to the point where, there's just two systems. You got one for the rich and powerful. Every now and then, one of the rich and powerful slip down into the room for everybody else. But the rich and powerful, they all get away with it because they just think, well, we're going to protect you because that could be me. And if we start prosecuting you, then they're going to come prosecuting me. And next thing you know, we could have, we could lose our positions of power, and it would just be terrible. Right. Anyway. Okay. So crime cures. Court-appointed attorneys aren't bad. They get more cases and therefore have more experience and time in front of the judge than private attorneys. Crime cures. Let me tell you. You know who I was talking to the other day when I was over there? Little tidbits. I'm asking the public defender, hey, man, I don't come over here all that often. What is this judge? What is the judge's quirks? What do I need to know about? That's true. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Some of the best attorneys I've ever seen have been public defenders. Some of the worst I've ever seen have been public defenders. Some of the best private attorneys I've ever seen, never served a day in the public defender's office or as a prosecutor. But it gives you good experience. I started out, I was a little prosecutor for a while, then a little public defender, and I was in the Marine Corps. Got out, started my practice. We took court-appointed cases. Our office still does that on the more serious cases that I take. I've got a couple of them right now. So yeah. So I agree. And then not sure what they're talking about, but the adventure baby boomer, we don't care. Okay, I'm not sure, but I figured we'll go there. Yes, my patience is less. I think that's what it becomes coming down to. Julia, and parents are lazy. Yeah, I think so. The world is just so much different. Is it just me, or it just seems like the kids are so much more grown up? And yes, that's a good thing in the sense of the technology that they're exposed to and all that kind of good stuff. But they just get bombarded with so much stuff that you are just not. We didn't get as kids, right? When I was 12 years old, man, I just wanted to ride my bike. I wanted to ride my skateboard. I wanted to hang with my friends, right? Girls, yeah, they're there, but they're so scary. And, I didn't have any sisters. They're terrifying, right? And when I was 16, all I wanted to do was drive my car, put my bike in my car to take my bike to go, to various little tracks and jumps and things like that, right? So yeah, yes. Okay, good. Adventures of baby. Just saying, at our age, we don't want to fight anymore. That's right. Adventures. You just get to the point where, listen, and My staff is probably so tired of hearing this because listen, there's an easy way and there's a hard way. Everyone always picks the hard way. And it's like, all right, you want to go play a game? Let's go. Um, so yeah, it's it's that's just the way it is. Like, we can sit here and try to resolve this as expeditiously as possible. What are we going to talk? All right. Stephanie, I'm trying to put this up on my super chat here. But it's not letting me, but thank you for the super chat. What do you think the chances are that Lori and Chad get acquitted? It terrifies me to think of it. If I was a betting man, and assuming the prosecution doesn't screw something up, I would say that Lori and Chad have about a 10% chance of being acquitted. Okay. So, convicted. Hopefully that answers your question. So, Stephanie, I don't think that they, short of the prosecution, this is a case. It is a case for the prosecution to win unless they screw something up. So please, Mr. Prosecutors here, do everything so above board that nobody has any reason to question your integrity. Do everything so that there is no doubt that you have produced every scintilla of evidence that's been collected. Anything, whether it's good or bad to the prosecution, has been turned over to the defense so that we do this trial once, starting in January, assuming this interlocutory appeal thing, which I digress, so we'll get back to that. And so, yeah, it's the prosecution's case to win unless they screw it up. So prosecution, I'm telling you, do everything so righteous, so above board that nobody is going to have any reason to doubt you, your office, your integrity, and to question the verdict in any way when it comes down. And don't overtry the case. Just go try the case. Don't overtry it. Don't try to get cute. Just keep it simple, right? Because yes, the prosecution has to prove that there was a conspiracy to commit these kids. These kids are dead as a result of this conspiracy. Now, I'm sure the defense will say Alex Cox, the brother of Lori Vallow, who's dead. Well, he's the guy that did it. We didn't know. And God forbid, if I was going to do something to harm these children, I certainly wouldn't bury them in my own front yard. That's going to be their defense. Maybe Lori Vallow's, hey, man, as you know, I was pretty mentally out of it. And that Chad guy, he was so manipulative. He had me so convinced that the world was coming to an end and that my kids were, what they call them, dark spirits or something to that effect. And so my brother, who was really mentally ill, must have done something, but I would never do that. I mean, sure, I believed in Chad's end of the world nonsense. Okay. I challenge anyone who can predict to me when the end of the world is going to come. Okay. In my lifetime, they've been saying it for as long as I can remember, right? Hell, what was it? Al Gore. What did he say 20 years ago? We were all going to be dead. We're all going to be dead by 2020. We're fine. Don't trust people that fear, panic. Let's just give us facts. Let's get facts. All right. So hopefully the Lori Vallow case, Chad Daybell, is going to go in January when it's supposed to start. But could that get derailed? We talked about the motion that was filed by John Pryor, attorney for Chad Daybell, today. And his motion is basically, Judge, hey, we want to appeal two of the motions that you denied. Now, we don't really know what all those motions were. And I read you the language of that order that the court wrote. And I'm just like, what a bunch of word salad stuff. This was going back to the July 6th order, I think. Let's go back here. No, that's not the one I'm looking for. That is not the motion you are looking for, Scott. I thought it was... Okay, here it is, I think it was the last one here nope, that's not it. Sorry. Maybe it's the first one that they put out on July 6th. Oh, yeah. Nope, not that one either. Let me go. It's the middle one here. Nope, that's not it. It's the one where he comes out and the judge just rambles. We had a hearing on 2 days and we talked about some stuff. Now, I'm not going to mention this stuff because it's under seal, but if I were to talk about the stuff a little bit more, I would deny those motions in the stuff, and the stuff is all denied. And the motions for the defense are denied as well. And the motion for the prosecution is denied as well. I mean, we got this stuff going on. It's really important stuff that we had in these hearings that were so secretive and so important that we can't let the community know what's going on in their community. So I held them under closed chambers, and we resolved these orders without anybody being there. And so they're denied. So Chad Daybell, through his attorney, says, I want to appeal 2 of those orders. Now, of course, we don't know what 2 orders they are, but I think it goes back to the whole issue. But we don't know because there were apparently oral motions made at the same time there were written motions. And so it's just, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just, I don't know. I don't like it. I should be able to go to any court and look at any of the docket orders and see what is going on, to see what the basis of the motions are. That's why the motions are in writing, so that everybody can see them. It just drives me nuts. So what are the odds of an interlocutory appeal being denied or being granted? Well, first, the judge, he's asking permission for the judge, saying, hey, judge, this is an interlocutory appeal. Please let us go up to the Court of Appeals, Supreme Court in this case, so they can resolve this issue because, we think you got it so wrong. So first, Judge Boyce would have to agree, saying, yes, I think that this issue must be resolved by a higher court because I don't know what I'm doing and I did not resolve the case correctly. That's basically what he's saying, okay? And then the Supreme Court would hear a petition, and then the Supreme Court would have to decide whether they are going to actually hear the issue. My guess is no. Most of the time, the Supreme Court on any sort of interlocutory issue is going to say, we're going to wait and see how things play out. Okay. So they're probably not going to accept it. So maybe the judge will just deny it, say, no, it's not that big of an issue. You can go forward. Let me give you an example of when an interlocutory appeal is usually given. Okay. 1, let's say you have the prosecutor and defense are in court. There's a motion to suppress filed by the defense that says that the prosecution's witness, the police normally, went in and seized something illegally without a warrant or beyond the scope of a warrant. And let's say the judge agrees with the defense. And the court says, yeah, the motion to suppress is granted. This particular piece of evidence is not admissible in court. Well, it kind of guts the case for the prosecution. At that point, the prosecution can do what they refer to as an interlocutory appeal and go up to the Supreme Court and say, judge, decide this. We've gutted our case. The case can't go forward. We can't really appeal. We're it's kind of been decided. This is the pivotal issue in the case. Will you hear it? Whereupon usually the Supreme Court reverses the judge and says, judge, how dare you not give deference to the police officers? Of course, that evidence can come in. Don't be so silly. Don't be so harsh with the prosecutors and their witnesses. They're just doing the best job they can. I mean, sure, the Constitution is simple, right? Don't do that. Don't do this. And you manage to screw it up. judge. So then they go back. The other way you can do it is, for example, the defense. Here we have what we call a Rule 21. And we did this a couple times during COVID, where we filed cases, or there were cases, and they were being continued because of COVID. And we're like, nowhere do I see in the United States Constitution, do I see a pandemic that somehow stays the speedy trial rights. And we had some good stuff where literally we had judges on record saying, I'm on the rules committee. We did what we had to do. We made it up so that we could get to what we need to do, to make the rules, because the legislature wasn't doing anything. And you're just like, exactly, Judge. Exactly. You made it up. You didn't have the authority to change the rules on your own on a whim one day. And, boom, that's it. I'm like, the judge said that on the record. I'd like to get that transcript, please. And then when the judge denied, the motion for the trial to go, or basically a motion to dismiss, go up to a Rule 21. And what does the Supreme Court do? Oh, no, we're not going to resolve that issue. I mean, we can't have people showing up for court in a pandemic, right? But there's more people sick now with COVID than there was 2 years ago, but yet we couldn't conduct a trial, right? It's like, excuse me, I am looking here in my pocket version of the Constitution, and I did not see the provision in there that said your constitutional rights to a speedy trial disappear during a public pandemic. Nope, didn't see it. Didn't see it. Some people disagree with me, but I accepted every trial during COVID. I'm like, let's go. My client wants to go. He is in custody. His liberty is at stake. He has a right to a trial. Judge, I don't care if we go do this out under a tent in the parking lot. My client has to do it. It's your job to accommodate the client right to a speedy trial. And don't forget this. When they're talking about the defendant's right to a speedy trial, remember this. The public also has a right to a speedy and public trial. So the citizens have a right to have these charges resolved in an expeditious manner as well. That's why you go in federal court, the judges specifically note on a motion for a continuance that's going to put the trial outside of the statutory speedy trial time, which is roughly about 70 days. They have to make very specific findings. And they note, many judges will note, that the public has just as much right to a speedy trial, because they want to know what's going on in their community. They want to know that justice is being served. People are being locked up and thrown away in the gallows. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. Can you believe it's already been an hour already? It goes by so fast. I wonder if we should do this like every day from like 9 a.m. to noon. That'd be a great time slot, wouldn't it? We just come 3 hours. We talk about all the cases, talk about all the procedure. I don't know. Let me know. Would anybody watch it? I don't know. Maybe I'm just at the point. I'll just let the young associates here in the office handle everything. We're all very good and very capable of handling everything. And I'll just come over here and we'll just basically do our YouTube show every day. Let me know if you'd watch it if we did it live. Just curious. Okay. All right. Couple of other things. Trish, your clock is running, Scott. It's only been 15 minutes. It seems like I'm telling you, it goes by so fast. So fast. Almost wish we could do this every night, but I'd have to learn how to do all this stuff by myself, because Frank, his wife, and 3 children want to see him. So, and the lovely Miss, we just have you start later, I guess. And the lovely Miss Chris would like to see me as well. And don't forget Miss Winnie the Bulldog. I mean, she needs love too. So, all right. A couple of things. First, we're going to go continue the conversation on our Patreon show immediately following this. So if you have become a Patreon, now it's time to join us. It's like $2, $5, something like that. But you also get to call in, and then you got the cool soundboard as well. We're going to add some stuff to it. I found some cool cool things as well. And of course, we got the Magic 8 Ball. We'll do that. You get some free stuff when you join as well. And, if you're in the area, for those of you that are regulars, you know that Julie left to go become a professional pilot. Left us. This is not a work from home position. This is a come into the office and work type of thing. Okay. So you know anything about marketing, all that kind of good stuff, but you got to be able to come to my office to do it. Let me know. Get in contact with us. All right. All right. We're going to wrap it up there. I want to thank everybody for joining us. We know you have lots of things you could do. The fact that you joined us, we are so greatly and appreciative of that fact. Please come join us on our Patreon show, and we'll let the conversation continue. So have a wonderful evening. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk.